This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome back to the third hour of our program, live from the Erie Cafe here on Veterans Day and my anniversary. And we have an August panel of folks representing the labor movement. And in fact, I'd like each of you to just reintroduce yourself briefly because, people tune in and tune out. And so, Tom, let's start with you.
Thank you, Tom. My name is Tom Villanova. I'm the president of Chicago and Cook County Building Trades. And I have the privilege and the honor of representing the 100,000 hardworking men and women in the union construction industry in Chicago and Cook County.
Sam?
Thanks, Tom. I'm Sam Cicinelli. I'm the business manager with Mechanics Local 701 in the Chicagoland area, the largest mechanics local in this country.
Cool. Bob?
Bob Reiter, Secretary-Treasurer of the Chicago Federation of Labor. The CFL represents 300 local unions that in turn represent 500,000 working men and women here in Chicago and Cook County, and I'm a third-generation member of the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150.
Good on you. Okay, Jeff?
Jeff Eppenstein, business representative for the United Union of Roofers, Waterproofers, Local 11, and I'm here on behalf of our over 2,100 members and 400 apprentices here in the Chicagoland area that give me this great job to come out here and represent all the issues that are important to us.
Larry? Excuse me. Tom. No.
I'm Tom Ryan. I'm president of Chicago Firefighters Union Local 2. I represent nearly 5,000 firefighters and paramedics in the city of Chicago. And I will add this, they are the best damn firefighters and paramedics in the country.
There you go. And Vito.
Vito Marchese, Machinist Local 126 of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, District 8. I'd like to do a personal hello to my dad, Korean War veteran, and my 92-year-old father-in-law, World War II veteran. Thank you.
That's great. That's great. On Veterans Day.
On Veterans Day.
On Armistice Day. Matt, do we have questions from the audience? Not yet. Not yet. Okay. Well, one of the other topics that I wanted to get into here is the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Oh, Tom, go for it.
I just wanted to follow up on a gentleman that was at the microphone right before.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that.
The one way that we see in the labor movement to get people out of all the shootings, everything else that's going on in some of the areas of the city of Chicago, is to give them a good middle-class job.
Yes.
I'm very proud of what the building trades in Chicago and Cook County is doing. Right now, with our outreach program, we have 41% minority participation in all of our apprenticeships. We want more. We want everybody to have the American dream of that good middle-class job where you can support your family and send your kids to a good school and then retire someday with dignity.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Yeah, Franklin Roosevelt said it brilliantly. The best welfare program in the world is a job. And it's just, okay, audience questions.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Weber, and I'm a former president of the Schaumburg Education Association, and I was president when history was made, and before collective bargaining, Judge Dahl refused to issue an injunction when we were on strike, and we were ordered back to the bargaining table, rather the board was, and we solved the problem. And we haven't had a strike since then, but collective bargaining is extremely important, and I want to thank you that you talk about that. I also want to thank you that you make it clear that the teachers are not responsible for the pension crisis, that we put in our money all those years and that the state did not, and that we do not qualify for Social Security. Many people do not know that. Right. They think I'm rolling in money because I taught 37 years in a grade school and that I get both. And if my husband dies, I'm not qualified for half of his Social Security either. So my pension is that for the rest of my life, which I hope will still be long, because I'm going to keep fighting for labor. Labor needs a voice, and the Democrats need to stand up for that more than they have been doing. We are letting ourselves be bullied by the Koch brothers and everybody else, and we don't get our messaging out enough. And Tom, you're a great voice for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a great comment. It wasn't a question, though, but Tom, you want to follow up on that?
Well, no, I wanted to follow up on something that Tom had said in our last guest before our break, and it's about the shootings and everything that do go on in the city of Chicago. And it takes a horrible toll, obviously, on the neighborhood, on the community, but it also takes a horrible toll on those who have to respond to deal with those things. I have paramedics and firefighters that have to respond to these shootings every single day. And if you don't think that takes an emotional toll on someone to have to sit there and look at a 9-year-old child who has just been shot in the back, it does. And then you're supposed to finish that call, go take them to the hospital, and then get ready for your next one. So that's something that people have to put in the back of their mind. There's not just the human toll, and God help any poor person that has to be put into a situation like that. But there's another end of the spectrum, the labor end of the spectrum, that isn't looked at, because they're the ones that have to go and deal with these things and then move on very quickly, because the next job is coming very quickly right after it. So
a lot of tough work done by union members in this country. And question, sir.
Yeah, I'm Johnny Rice from University Park. I keep hearing about all these domestic programs that they want to cut. Well, what about these corporate tax things that they want to cut? So they want us to tighten our belts. Well, can't they tighten theirs too? Thank you.
The billionaire class, Jeff, you want to speak to that?
Well, you know what, they did have business, I guess, put their fair share of skin in the game. Governor gave them $100 million subsidy for corporations. At the same time, he cut programs that help out the middle and lower class and people of need. So they don't put their skin into the game. They're all talking. We talked about trickle down economics. You talk about right to work. You talk about this turnaround agenda. All of these things are harmful to the average person that's out there just trying to go to work, support a family, pay your bills, and one day retire with some sense of dignity and respect for what you've contributed to this society.
Yeah. Bob, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, Tom, there's something else, though, I think that's not completely in the shadows, but it's lurking on the edge of the shadows. You probably know a little bit about this. The Koch brothers, when they were screening presidential candidates, they put out a statement that they want to end corporate welfare to some extent.
Right.
And the reason why they want to do that is it's brilliant of them. They want to starve out all the companies that are below their tier, right? So that way, you'll see this from time to time. Us in the labor movement, especially in the building construction trades industry, sometimes the employers will push us into a strike situation to get rid of their competitors, right? Especially in those multi-employer bargaining situations. So we have to watch the strategy. I mean, some of these crazy sociopathic Republicans that we deal with, they have these strategies that seem absurd on their face, but they make a lot of sense from their perspective. In terms of creating an even higher and even more concentrated elite class that controls all the capital in the country.
Yeah, and that's the 1/100th of 1% or the 1/10th of 1%. We have just a little less than a minute. Anybody want to toss an added thought onto that, or shall I just? I think that okay, Tom, go for it.
I think one of the big things here too that we're talking about Governor Rauner all along. This man doesn't understand what our members go through day in and day out. Tommy just talked about something with the firefighters. Our members that have to get up at 4:30 in the morning and drive an hour to get to a job, and they work outside when it's 10 below zero, otherwise they don't get paid. The governor has no concept of this at all. He doesn't know what our members go through on a day-to-day basis. So I don't know how he can, equate what he's trying to do through the turnaround agenda and other things to what our members live through every day.
Yeah, the so-called turnaround agenda. I think we always should preface it with that, because it's not, turnaround sounds like a good thing. This is not a good thing, what this governor's doing. We are live from the Erie Cafe in Chicago, and we will be back with more right after this.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
More from the Erie Cafe, sponsored by WCPT and a whole bunch of great folks right after this. Welcome back from Chicago. We're at the Erie Cafe, the program brought to you by the Regional Council of Carpenters, the title sponsor, the supporting sponsors, United Union of Roofers, Waterproofers and Allied Workers Local 11, Machinists Local 126 District 8, and ground transportation provided by our good friends at McCarthy Ford. And thank you to my panelists here. Y'all in the audience, you can call into the program any day of the week and ask me questions. But right now you've got 6 really knowledgeable people in the labor movement who are up here. So if you could please direct your questions. You don't have to pick a person, but ask questions. What are the questions that you would want to ask of somebody who really understands the labor movement? If to the extent that it's possible, or what's going on in the state or things like that. But ask questions for them rather than for me, if possible.
Good morning. My name is Lucky Molovitis. I'm a history teacher and union delegate at my high school here in CPS. That's Farragut Career Academy. I'd like to thank you, Tom, for coming out here today, and thank you all my union brothers for coming out this day. But I think we would be remiss if we don't mention what's happening right here in our city under the administration of Rounder's drinking buddy and economic soulmate, and that's Mayor Rahm Emanuel. As I'm sure all of you gentlemen know, we've been working without a contract since last June. We've been in negotiations ever since, which I'm sure is the reason why there's no CTU representatives up there. We've been pretty busy. Under Rahm Emanuel, we've closed 50 schools, 50 public schools that employed union teachers and other union staff. Right now, we've got negotiations in which we're asking for a moratorium on any more school closings. The board will not agree to that. We're asking for a cost of living increase just to maintain, and we're not getting that. They don't want to pick up our pension. Their pension commitment, which is another 7%. We're looking at a 10% pay cut. And what is happening to the students that went to these public schools? They're going to privately run, publicly funded charter schools that are not accountable to the public because they don't have to open up their books. We don't see how much they're paying their administrators, but we know what they're paying their teachers. Several thousand less than what the public school teachers are getting paid. Not only that, they have no union contract. So they're at-will employees. They can be fired any day for any reason. They have high turnover of teachers at these schools. Studies have shown the students aren't doing any better and sometimes considerably worse than in CPS, publicly funded public schools. So I just want to put that comment out there because as we talk about Governor Rauner, we have to realize that even though our mayor and the governor may disagree on ideas of the pension or minimum wage, they have a lot in common when it comes to public education policy, and that must be acknowledged today as our teachers have the day off thinking about our veterans.
Yeah, this is something that has,
Thank you.
Badly infected the body politic of the United States. Anybody want to speak to this? Bob?
The only thing I'll add is that, they've looked at charter schools over the years, right? And they do not perform as well. Charter schools is people on one side, Al Shanker, who used to be president of the AFT nationally, he was a proponent of charter schools up until charter schools actually started to, actually function. Because what happened was they took the charter school model and they monetized it and they made it into a business. And we have a few union charter schools here in the Chicago that are represented by a sister local to the Chicago Teachers Union. But those folks, they face a lot of challenges in organizing, right? I mean, it's the classic stuff that we see in the industrial sector and even in parts of the building and construction trades in terms of how the employer responds in terms of to a union organizing drive. What are they afraid of? What are they afraid of? Having teachers participate in the process in these charter schools, and time again, the charter schools here in the city of Chicago as a whole don't perform to the level that our teachers at the Chicago public school system perform. And we talk about what our educators do every day. They go into their own pockets and make sure that students have supplies, that things that aren't paid for by the district, that they're able to do it. And it's not just in Chicago. It's all across the country. It's all across the suburbs. It's all across the state. So I think we need to keep on pushing against this model of charter schools, because the people that we should be talking to on what types of education models going forward, it should be teachers. They're the experts.
Yeah. Amen. And I would just add, I think there are there are two motivations running here. I mean, you know, and a lot of Democrats and people who don't consider themselves political, the Gates Foundation, have been funding these efforts to do charter schools. And I, personally, this is my personal conspiracy theory, as it were, is that this was being pushed before well-intentioned people got into it. This was being pushed as a way to destroy unions. You know, as I said earlier, unions traditionally have supported Democratic candidates, and so Republicans come out and they, you know, whatever we can do to destroy unions. And then also this whole conservative or neoconservative belief system that anything that the government can do can be done by private industry, and somebody can make a buck off it. And if you can't make a buck off it, why do we have it, right? And of course, the reason why we have it is because we're a democratic republic. You know, we take care of our people. But I mean, I've had Republicans push for privatized fire departments, privatized police departments, privatized, you know, I mean, half of the country right now is getting their electricity from privatized utilities. It used to be, you know, just a small fraction. So, yeah, go ahead, Vito.
Yeah, Tom, Vito from Local 126 Machinists. I'd just like to comment to Brother Lucky out there. Thank you for your comments. I'm a product of the Chicago public school system, grade school, Newton Bateman, Taft High School on the far northwest side. Still a lifelong Chicago resident. I would say that some of the decisions that have been made probably weren't the right decisions, and we can see with the latest indictment with the school board president, it may not have been the right choice, and you would think a little more vetting would have seen what was happening, or a little more investigation. But you know, obviously we need a strong public school system to get our people, our young people, educated, to get jobs, and then the violence will cease. Yeah. People get out there, they're educated, they can get a job, they can hold a job, and that's what the bottom line is here.
Amen. Vito, well said. Thank you. It's 27 minutes past the hour. We'll be back in just a moment. And welcome back from Chicago. Thom Hartmann here with you live at the Erie Cafe, brought to you by WCPT, the Regional Council of Carpenters, United Union of Roofers, Waterproofers, and Allied Workers, Machinists Local 126. And the tip of the hat to McCarthy Ford for providing our transportation. We have Vito Marchese with us, Tom Ryan, Jeff Eppenstein, Tom Villanova, Sam Cicinelli, and Bob Reiter. Am I saying this right? Okay, cool. Let's pick up some more questions.
Thank you, Tom, for being here with this great panel, and to my brother and my fellow teacher here. I'm a former teacher. Right now, I run a daycare center here in Chicago, and for years they've been systematically trying to shut us down to steer students into the charter schools. And my background is in special education, so I'm very hands-on with my children. And we have children in our school that when they go to these charter schools, the charter schools cannot handle the children. They don't perform proper IEP meetings, you know, and so on. So I'm with the teachers. But one other thing I'd like to bring up, and I don't know what union is going to be handling this. I applaud all of the people that are marching with trying to get the $15 pay raise with McDonald's workers and things like that. I think it's great, but it's my opinion that I feel that these corporations have no intentions of raising the pay, because I don't know if anybody heard it. I think it was this morning or either last night I heard that McDonald's dividends went up, you know, because they've extended their breakfast and things like that. So the corporation has lifted their dividends and paid out. So they're not looking, they're going to hold out at least until the elections. And what union is going to represent, if they can get a union? Your opinions, sir, gentlemen.
Bob Reiter, you.
So the what you're referring to is the Fight for 15 in a union movement, known mostly as the Fight for 15, and they're actually a group that is organized under a labor organization called the Workers Organizing Campaign or something like that. But it's actually a union, and it was smart because you referenced the Wagner Act earlier, Tom. Wagner Act is what gave collective bargaining rights to private sector workers in 1936. But unions have existed for centuries, right? And here in the United States, the labor movement really has its foundation in the late 1800s, and we don't need the Wagner Act. And you know what? In a lot of times, back in the 1880s, 1890s, you talk about labor struggles here in Chicago with the Haymarket Affair and the everything else that happened here, the Pullman strike. You can take collective power and turn it into comparative advantage just by getting people out on the streets, and you don't need to do it always through a union contract. I mean, there's certainly been a lot of unions over the years. The Wobblies, if anybody knows what the Wobblies are, they don't care if they get a union contract or not. They get the employer's attention, and they get whatever they need done at that moment in time. So there is a union that is behind that, an actual organization, and SEIU, the Service Employees International Union, is heavily involved with that group, and it's important, right? I was at a function for somebody last night who was behind some of the original fast food worker organizing in the 1980s. And they actually got some of the fast food restaurants in Detroit organized, and they were in collective bargaining. Now, things happen, and they didn't realize a full, long collective bargaining life. But who knows? Who thought that Walmart would start bringing up their pay based on all these campaigns we've had against Walmart? They're the biggest, scariest corporation in the world, right? Guess what? Keep fighting.
Yeah. The other thing to keep in mind is that, and this I believe is why you had 3 Republicans last night in the debate come out against raising the minimum wage, is that a scam is being run on the American people by these large corporations, and the scam is essentially, and particularly in the fast food industry and in the retail industry, the scam is essentially we will get the taxpayers to pick up a good chunk of the cost of our employees, and we'll get the taxpayers to pick up for it by paying for their health insurance, paying for helping with their housing, paying for their food. And how do you do that? You pay them so little that they qualify for welfare programs or for benefit program, whatever you want to call them. And this is an actual business model. And if we were to raise the minimum wage up to a point where people will no longer qualify for these programs, it's going to take it off we the taxpayers, and put it back on the corporation where it should be, the cost of maintaining their employees, which is just common sense, it seems. Question.
Hi, my name is Zachary. You kind of stole my thunder. So I was asking, can we tax all these companies that are not paying enough to their employees, so the employees are forced to go, like you just say, on public assistance and all kinds of programs, and basically the rest of us have to pay the employees to survive? Can we put a tax on that employee?
That would be one way to do it. I think a much more straightforward way to do it is just to raise the minimum wage. I mean, if the minimum wage was just inflation adjusted since 1968, it would be over $12 an hour, as I recall, if anybody. Yeah,
I actually think it's closer to $18 to $20 an hour.
Is it?
Yeah, it's dramatic, and it's crazy that we haven't been able to keep up pace with that, right?
Yeah.
In the labor movement, one of the things we were talking about earlier privately was, one of the reasons why we need to raise the minimum wage is that, we fight so much to make sure that we're continually providing our employees good costs, our members good cost of living adjustments. We need to focus on everybody else too, because there's organized labor. Those are the unions and the organizations that we represent. But we also have a broader mission. That's a labor movement. That's everybody. That's everybody that puts on a pair of boots and goes to work. If you're a nurse, a doctor, you're a construction worker, you're the zookeeper I talked about earlier. But that's what we need to do. It's dramatic. It's dramatic how far the minimum wage has been held back over the years, and it should be indexed. I mean, you're talking about what it would be if it were indexed. It should be indexed. Our governor, we're talking about Governor Rauner earlier. He was against the minimum wage, for the minimum wage, against the minimum wage, and he did his State of the State address last winter, spring, and he made this dramatic statement during that, and he said that he was for raising the minimum wage to $11.10, right? And then there was a pause, and then he said over 7 years, and half the chamber, more than half, about closer to 70 people. You can, at least on the House side, you probably figure out who those folks are. They started laughing.
Yeah.
Right? I started laughing. I thought he was joking, and all the while he was dropping all the G's off the ends of his word. And he probably had his assistant in back holding the pressed Carhartt jacket that he was going to put on because he's one of us.
Yeah.
Right? We need to do more to protect the minimum wage because it really helps. It helps everybody. It helps those who need it the most, the working poor, but it also lifts standards for our whole society. And guess what? We come back to it. People are consumers again. We can buy the products we make. Right? We can pay for the services that we provide.
We need to get politics past just optics. If somebody mentioned to me, I think it was you, Bob, that the governor drives around on a motorcycle, something that, he borrowed from Scott Walker, presumably, make him seem like an average guy. It's like Scott, what's his name? The guy who was briefly the senator from Massachusetts, with his red truck,
I can, when Governor Rauner, when he was campaigning, he put on this Carhartt jacket. For those of you who aren't familiar with working outdoors, it's a heavy insulated jacket. Carhartt still makes jackets in the United States, and this is a construction worker's uniform. My dad worked as an operating engineer, operating heavy equipment out in the cold for 35 years. And I told folks, anybody who would listen during that campaign, how offensive it was to me as a kid who used to see his dad's boots sitting beside his lunch cooler at the door on Sundays when he would be home because he was working as much as he could. He was working. To see Bruce Rauner put that on there and say, because I put this on, and this $12 watch, he talked about a $12 watch. This was part of his campaign. Does anybody here remember Bruce Rauner's $12 watch? If my dad could spend $100 on a watch for me when I was a kid, he'd do it. And he would do it with the money he earned working every day to make sure that I had a better life. Bruce Rauner and the elitist politicians, the Ken Griffins of the world, the Koch brothers, they don't get it. They don't live in reality, and that's the problem. If there's a problem we have here in our state and our country, it's that. It's that we have these people pandering to us and not really understanding what our issues are.
Yeah, and I think they do get it. Actually, I think that there's a certain amount of Calvinism in this whole thing. The idea that I think a lot of these people actually believe that they are morally superior to working people. I'm a billionaire. God must have blessed me or something like that. It's amazing. Okay, another question from the audience.
Alan Eichler, teacher, and my question is piggyback right on that. Tribune reported some time ago is that there is a slush fund that Rauner has started to collect from the billionaire class to buy votes, help Republican legislators win re-election, and it was $7 million from Griffin and Sam Zell and his own money. The gentleman in the legislature, is that something? Is he still here?
No, he had to leave.
Well,
but
is this going on? Is there a lot of buying votes, buying everything?
Okay, we will pick that up right after the break. That's a great question. What's going on with Illinois politics and with Governor Rauner? We'll be right back. We're live at the Erie Cafe, WCPT.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be right back. Stick around. Welcome back from Chicago. WCPT sponsoring this event here at the Erie Cafe on Veterans Day here, and this program brought to you, our title sponsor, the Regional Council of Carpenters, the supporting sponsors, United Union of Roofers, Waterproofers, and Allied Workers Local 11, Machinists Local 126, District 8, and ground transportation provided by McCarthy Ford. And thank you all. We had a great question at just before the last break, which was basically, what is the state of labor and politics in the state of Illinois? And we have about 8 minutes, I think, here to wrap this show up. And there's 6 of us here, six of you plus me, 7 of us. But I'm not going to talk much. So I'd like to just go down the line here and have each one of you just, in a minute or so, just give us your thoughts on the state of labor and politics. Start with you, Vito.
Yeah, Vito Marchese, Machinist 126. Again, labor is here, especially here in the city. We'll work with anyone. We work with the mayor to help pass his budget. We're going to work with the county. We want to work with people. I'd like to say to the governor, you know, we're here. We're willing to work. Let's negotiate. That's what negotiations are for. What I'd like to say to the governor is what a famous ex-basketball coach would say here to his defensive team when they weren't playing. Do your job. Bring a budget to the floor, and let's work it out. Let's get it done.
There you go.
Thank you.
Tom Ryan with the Firefighters.
Well, I think it's very simple. That we all know that there is a war going on here, and I'd hate to label it a class war, but I think that's exactly what it is. And we need to let the American public and the public in the state of Illinois understand that unions are not the bad guys here. Unions have built this state, they built this country, and for anyone to denigrate or to put down our contribution, I think is shameful. And we have to re-educate the public on what exactly it is we do. And until we do that, where our politicians are a lot of them are a reflection of where we are currently in the state of our economy, the state of our country, and we need to get politicians, it was said earlier today, candidates, strong labor-friendly candidates to start running for these offices, and so they can be our voice for what goes on. Because right now we're at a crossroads, and it's going to be very serious and very damaging to the working public if we don't change this flow very quickly.
Jeff?
Jeff Eppenstein, United Union of Roofers and Waterproofers, and in closing here, the state of politics in Illinois. I guess I kind of accepted it when he was elected that this was going to be 4 years of a really uphill battle pushing a big rock. Positive that came of it is that he did unite the House of Labor. He united all of the unionized people in this state, and everybody comes together now as one. I see it. The campaigns are going on everywhere. We're holding hands, brothers and sisters. So he has sparked a wildfire in the labor movement. So that's the positive that came of it. The negative is we have 3 more years to deal with him, and there's going to be much more battles going on with that. State of labor and the union movement. I see the union movement strong. I see what's going on, and not only my union but other unions. We're bringing in apprentices. We're training these apprentices. We're educating them. We're providing them with skills that they're going to go out and be able to support their family, not just with that minimum wage job, not just with a 1, 2, 3 year career, but a lifelong career. Tying into Veterans Day today, as Bob had said, I'm very proud also. I'm a 3rd generation union roofer. When my grandfather came back from World War II, he had something there, to tie Tom's point in. He had a job. Yeah. And he had a job that paid well.
I got to move along.
Thank you.
We got about 2 minutes.
Yeah, thanks. I'm Bob Reiter, Chicago Federation of Labor. A couple years ago, the CFL came up with this campaign, Proud Union Home. And who's got a Proud Union Home sign in front of their house? Chicago is a proud union home. And the one thing I want folks to know is that I've looked at it. We've talked to the public. The people in the state of Illinois like unions. They love unions. They understand what we do, the work for the working class. Not just people who are members of unions, but people just generally. We need to stand behind that.
Sam?
Thanks, Tom. How I see the state of the labor, we're obviously not the problem here, as our brother Tom had said earlier. But what I also see is the youth watching their parents go through some very tough times. They're very, very militant. They want labor. They want unions because they know that we protect them. And if their parents were union, they were fortunate enough to not see their parents go down. But if they weren't, they understand the importance of unions. So we're here to fight on their behalf. Get out, vote. That's another important issue.
Unions are the future. Yeah,
absolutely.
Tom Villanova.
Thank you, Tom. It's very simple, and everybody echoed this on the stage up here. It's about a job. We don't want any exotic thing. We're not worried about what yacht we're going to buy, anything like that. All we want is a job, just to go to work every day, support our family, and hopefully, God willing, someday retire with some dignity. And we've got a common enemy. And I think this is what one of the common threads up here has been, that nobody has been able to solidify the labor movement, the union labor movement in the state of Illinois like this governor has, and he doesn't understand a word of what we say or what we do, nor does he want to understand it, but it's up to us to stick together and make him understand it.
Amen. And with the final 30 seconds here, let me add, Y'all here in Chicago have something that's really, really special, and that's WCPT. There's not a lot of cities in this country that have good, independently owned, locally owned, progressive programming. And so let me encourage particularly anybody who's listening to me on WCPT right now, to listen to the sponsors, listen to the ads. Even if you don't want to buy that new car or whatever it may be, call them up and say, you know, thank you for advertising on WCPT. I'm not going to buy a car this year, but I'm going to tell everybody I know, and I'll probably run across somebody who will, or whatever the product may be. Let them know you're listening. And thank you all to my panel. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, everybody. Great having you with us. And we'll be back tomorrow. Tag, you're it.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.